Hello students. So today's topic is on the anatomy of heart, an organ that is vital for our survival. Many students find anatomy quite difficult to study, and our textbooks does use a lot of complicated words which we are not familiar with. Thus, to make it easy to study anatomy and that too from our textbook itself, I have brought you this series which will cover major topics from your textbook of anatomy by B.D. Chaurasia, Gray's Anatomy and other sources. It is a comprehensive lecture with all the explanations, illustrations and notes all together. This is the first lecture of the series and it's the anatomy of the human heart. This first lecture is just a preview lecture to revise and explain heart in its most basic form. But as we go about in the series, things will go from simple to complex, thus helping you grasp all the knowledge, understand each concept and help you remember it for life. It will also help you understand anatomy from a clinical point of view. So without further ado, let us start with our lecture. Heart is a very important organ of our body. Why? Because it is the organ that pumps blood throughout our body. Heart acts like a pump, but instead of water, it supplies blood to all parts of our body and helps keep every cell in the body functional. Since it is the organ that makes sure that oxygenated blood reaches all the organ and ensures that deoxygenated blood from the tissues return back to it, it is thus called as the organ of the circulatory system as it forms a circle of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. The Greek term for heart is cardia, while the Latin term for it is cor for coronary. Thus, these terms are interchangeably used to denote associations with the heart. Now, the heart is located into the thoracic cavity, which is inside the middle mediastinum. So, the thoracic cavity is the cavity where the lungs are situated, or you can say behind the ribs. So, in between the middle portion of your ribs, there your heart is situated. Now it lies in between the two lungs and it is slightly more towards the left of the sternum. Thus, the left sided pointing of the heart is called as levocardia. Levo in Latin means left, and in a rare medical condition, people may have the heart pointing in the right side, and this condition is called as dextrocardia. So, dextro in Latin means right side. So, if the heart is located at the right side, it can cause a lot of problem, especially because of the position of the heart and its associated structures. A typical heart is approximately the size of your fist, that is 12 cm or 5 inch in length, 8 cm that is 3.5 inch wide and 6 cm that is 2.5 inch in thickness. Given the size difference between most members of the sexes, the weight of a female heart is approximately 250 to 300 grams and that of a male heart is approximately 300 to 350 grams. The heart is grossly divided into two parts, the apex and the base. The apex is the tip of the heart. In a triangle, there is a base and there is a tip. While the base is the broader area of the triangle, the tip is the one that points upward and is narrowed end of the triangle. Now, in anatomical term, this tip is called the apex. The heart is an inverted triangle where the apex lies below the base in a downward manner. This apex is formed entirely by the part of the heart called the left ventricle. The base of the heart, as I said, lies on top where all the major blood vessels enter the heart. So this area here is the base of the heart. It is made up by the left atrium and a small part of the right atria. Coming to the layers of the heart is made up of three layers, namely the pericardium, the myocardium and the endocardium. The pericardium is the outermost layer. This layer itself is further divided into two, the fibrous and the serous layer. The pericardium is the first layer on dissection of the heart. This layer then lies on the most important layer of the heart, that is the myocardium. Myo stands for muscles, while cardium denotes the heart. Thus, this is the muscular layer of the heart. It is important because most of the work of heart is done by this layer, and any damage to it will directly affect the functioning of the heart. The third and the innermost layer is the endocardium, which is made up of simple squamous epithelium called the endothelium. The endothelial layer is similar to the endothelium of the blood vessels. Let us now discuss the four chambers of the heart, two atria and two ventricles. This chamber is commonly classified into two sides, that is the right-sided pump and the left-sided pump. Both the sides have one atria and one ventricle each. The right pump receives deoxygenated blood and pumps it towards the heart. The left pump receives oxygenated blood from the lungs and sends it to the body. We will learn in detail about them in the upcoming videos. Now, heart consists of four valves which regulates and maintain blood flow in one direction only. Thus, once blood leaves from any of the chambers to its next destination, it can hardly come back as the valves prevent the backflow of the blood. The four valves of the heart are the tricuspid valve, the mitral or bicuspid valve, pulmonic valve, and the aortic valve. Tricuspid valve lies in between the right atria and the right ventricle. Thus, it is also called the right atrioventricular valve. Since the right ventricle pushes blood towards the pulmonary trunk, the valve that is present in between them is called as the pulmonic valve. The mitral valve lies in between the left atria and the left ventricle. Thus, it is also called the left atrioventricular valve. The valve in between the left ventricle and the aorta is called the aortic valve. It helps in preventing blood from slipping back into the left ventricle. Now let us discuss about the conduction system of the heart. The heart is made up of involuntary muscles which contract on their own. To contract on their own, the heart have nodes which is made up of specialized conduction cells that generate electrical impulses of their own. These electrical impulses are then transferred systematically across all the nodes in the heart to cause rhythmic coordinated contraction and relaxation of the heart chambers. It consists of the following nodes: SA node, AV node, bundle of His, Purkinje fibers. We will learn about them in detail in the upcoming lectures. Now, talking about the great vessels and also the superior and inferior vena cava, let us first discuss the superior vena cava. The superior vena cava is a large vein which brings venous blood from the upper half of the body and returns it to the right atrium. From here, the blood will go to the right ventricle where it will be pumped towards the lungs for oxygenation. This same mechanism happens with the venous blood brought by the inferior vena cava from the lower and the middle body. Remember, both superior as well as the inferior vena cava sends the blood to the right atrium and not the ventricle. The aorta is the largest artery of the body. It originates in the left ventricle and from here moves upward, then forms a U to turn downwards to reach the abdomen, where it branches. Oxygenated blood received by the left atrium from the lungs passes down to the left ventricle. The left ventricle then pumps this blood into the aorta, which supplies oxygenated blood throughout the body as it branches. The pulmonary trunk is also an artery which originates in the right ventricle and moves upward to supply deoxygenated blood to the lungs for oxygenation. The right atrium, which receives the deoxygenated blood from all over the body, sends it to the right ventricle. The right ventricle pumps this blood towards the pulmonary trunk, which consists of left and right pulmonary artery. It is called artery instead of veins, even though it carries deoxygenated blood. This is because it carries oxygenated blood in the fetus or an unborn baby, and this system is reversed when the baby is born. The pulmonary arteries take the deoxygenated blood and sends it to the respective lungs where the carbon dioxide is exchanged for oxygenation by the alveoli. So these were the blood vessels that supply blood to all parts of the body or brings back the blood back to the heart. But what about the blood supply of the heart? Well, the blood required for the survival of heart tissues is supplied by the coronary artery and its branches. The first portion of the aorta, after it ascends from the left ventricle, gives rise to this coronary artery. The coronary veins drains the heart and generally run besides the coronary arteries. Their tributaries all meet together and drains into a space called the coronary sinus, which further drains the blood into the right atrium. There are also the anterior cardiac veins and the Thebesian vein. Lastly, we have the nervous supply of the heart. The heart is supplied by both the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nerves, whose branches together forms the cardiac plexus. This cardiac plexus consists of the superficial part and the deep part. Also, the visceral afferent fibers passes through the cardiac plexus to the central nervous system. So these are the major topics that we will study in detail in a subsequent lecture. This was just a preview of heart and also a preview of how my lectures would be. I hope you understood the basics clearly, and if you did, please do like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.